The catalog of Disney Animation Studios is the most illustrious and revered of animation. For over 80 years, the studio has created, defined, and time again, innovated in the field of animation. From the very first animated feature, 1937's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, animated film had been proven to stand among the greatest films of all time. This would continue with 1940's Pinocchio, Fantasia, 1941's Dumbo, 1942's Bambi, and 1943's Saludos Amigos? If you hadn't heard of Saludos Amigos before this video, that wouldn't be shocking, as the film is rarely spoken about, reviewed, or mentioned by Disney itself. The film has fallen into somewhat obscurity over the years, and has never had a resurgence in popularity like some of Disney's other films. Despite this, I've always had a fondness for this film, and have watched it many times over the years. Whether it be the expressive animation, documentary-esque style, brilliant music, or a variety of other factors, I've always found new appreciation and enjoyment for this film every time I sit down to watch it. And in today's video, hopefully I can persuade you to give this film a watch, or a much-needed rewatch. This is DES. Before analyzing the film itself, it is important to understand the historical context surrounding it. In 1932, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected in a landslide victory over incumbent Herbert Hoover. The world of 1932 was incredibly tense and devastating. In America, the Great Depression had suddenly begun 3 years ago, having dire effects on the nation's economy and people. Overseas, the Nazi regime had been growing in power in Germany, while the rest of the continent was still recovering under the shadow of World War I. To say the least, worldwide morale was low. President Roosevelt would deliver his first inaugural address on March 4, 1933. During it, he would put forth a good neighbor policy. This foreign policy was designed to create better relations between the United States and South America. This was especially important as Germany was attempting to make inroads into Central and South America. From this policy, the Walt Disney Animation Studio was asked by Nelson Rockefeller, leader of the Office of the Coordinator of Inter-American Affairs, to make cartoon shorts celebrating the culture and customs of South America. This choice made sense, as Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs as well as Pinocchio had been released in South America with Spanish and Portuguese translations to huge success. Therefore, the South American public was already familiar with the company. So in 1941, Walt Disney and a hand-picked team of artists, musicians, soundmen, and animators embarked on a tour of South America, including the countries of Chile, Argentina, Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador, Guatemala, Panama, and Mexico. During this time, they explored the various cultures of South America and returned to the United States with a plethora of stories, concepts, and designs. 12 cartoons were produced from these ideas, and 4 of them would be included in a feature film called Saludos Amigos. The film was a hit both in North and South America, and was nominated for 3 Academy Awards. Despite the success at the time, Saludos Amigos would fall into obscurity, while the films surrounding it would only become more well-known. During this analysis, we'll walk through the film linearly and discuss each segment in detail. And by the end, we'll answer this important question: is Saludos Amigos an underrated and important gem? Or outdated and unambitious? I'll let you decide. In Disney Animation's 5 films prior to Saludos Amigos, the opening scene of the film establishes the setting, tone, and important characters: a fairy tale book, a wicked ruler, and our innocent main character. A song about wishing upon a star sung by a tiny cricket. The introduction of the Philadelphia Orchestra and guide of the film. A circus elephant's baby not being delivered. And a beautiful and peaceful yet dark and moody forest. Saludos Amigos decides to open with a brief introduction, not to the main character of the film, not to a secondary character, but rather the artists behind it. This immediately changes what you're used to from a Disney animation film. After they climb aboard the plane, we're shown the countries where both the artists will go and the film will take place. The film is primarily structured by 4 location-based segments. Each segment contains documentary-style accounts of what the animators saw there, and a cartoon they made based on these sites. So without further ado,
Adios, Hollywood, and Saludos Amigos.
The crew lands in Peru, near the expansive and ancient Lake Titicaca. The area is known as the birthplace of the Inca, and through this segment, the culture and customs of the descendants of the Inca are explored. Balsa reed ships, bustling markets, traditional fashion, and music. After showing some pieces of art made on location, we're thrust into the first cartoon of the feature. The short stars Donald Duck, who acts as the audience surrogate in both this segment and the final one. As were American audiences in 1942, Donald explores a new culture with wide eyes and bright curiosity. Donald interacts with the elements described before the short. He tries and fails to use a balsa reed ship, walks around a market, he tries on the traditional fashion, and tries and fails to play a flute. These interactions paired with top-notch Disney animation create a segment that fuses cultural learning with the great slapstick entertainment that can only be found in animation. As for an example of the great animation and music direction throughout the film, the sequence of Donald trying to use the flute to command a llama fuses the two to great effect. Every sound in the score is punctuated by visual action. After some shenanigans on a bridge, Donald falls into Lake Titicaca and speeds away, ending segment 1. Before going into detail about segment 2, it is important to point out the documentary style of this film. It was not often at this point in cinema that you were able to peek behind the curtain and see how the films were made. This idea is common now, but not in the early 1940s. Everything on screen in Saludos Amigos is given a backstory and a look at the process behind it. This segment is no different. We're shown more pieces of concept art, but drawn from a height of 16,000 feet over the Andes mountain range. During the trip, the crew learned about the pioneer mail planes who first traveled above the Andes. This led to the cartoon you're about to see, Pedro. The story is about a little boy airplane who is tasked with flying over the Andes to pick up mail in Mendoza, Argentina, and fly it back to Santiago, Chile. Despite the oppressive Aconcagua mountain hanging above him, Pedro braves the blizzard and returns home with the mail. This cartoon is yet another example of the Disney team drawing upon an old story and refreshing it with great presentation and character. Although the film primarily serves as a stylized look into South American culture, Pedro shows how South American culture and American film techniques can come together to create something great. This could also stand for the film itself. Before moving on to the next segment, I'd like to mention how much I enjoy the design of Pedro. His animation is always highly expressive, and his big eyes show exactly what he's thinking. This way of character design attributed to personified vehicles is almost a predecessor to films like Cars and Planes. It's not particularly relevant, but still I think it's worth a mention. Segment 3 opens with shots of the beautiful Buenos Aires, Argentina. It is here where the Disney team will gather inspiration for the next cartoon. We're transported to the southern edge of the South American continent, a grassland region called the Pampas. Here we see the centerpiece of the next cartoon, the gaucho, or skilled horseman. We're shown the traditional meals, dances, and music of the Pampas. The narrator analogizes these traditional dances to the traditional square dances of America. This piece of dialogue is a perfect representation of the idea of this segment, that North and South America's cultures share similarities, and through these similarities they can be great neighbors. The cartoon begins with
Howdy, strangers!
Cowboy Goofy being whisked from Texas all the way to the Argentine Pampas. He trades his cowboy attire for gaucho equipment. The rest of the cartoon is a hilarious Goofy romp with more excellent gag animation. I'd like to shout out this slow motion sequence for being really well executed. At the end of the adventure, Goofy is flung back to Texas, and the film moves to its final segment.
Hasta la vista! Adios, amigos!
Since segment 1 opened the film with an examination of ancient South American culture, it would only be proper to have the final segment end the film with an examination of modern South American culture. The final segment takes place in the bustling city of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. We're shown some images of the city and concept art made from them. We're also shown the instruments that create samba music, the basis of the next cartoon, Aquarela do Brasil, or Watercolor of Brazil. The cartoon begins with an artist painting a beautiful Brazilian backdrop. And with the flick of a brush, the rhythm begins. The entire cartoon serves as a visual spectacle of animation and music, and I assure you, if you watch this film, you will not be disappointed. The way that the paintbrush moves to create shapes is some excellent attention to detail. All of the music is perfectly accented by the animation. Donald is brought in with some great gags that predate similar works like the Looney Tunes Duck Amuck. It is also here that we have our introduction to a new character, Jose Carioca. Donald and Jose meet and go on a tour of Rio de Janeiro. It is natural that the film ends with a celebration between a North American and South American character. And as the celebration goes on into the night, the film draws to a close. Communication in the decade of the 1940s was still far more primitive than what we have now. Televisions were around but rare to own, and mobile phones and computers were many decades away. Because of this, the average person was unaware of the larger world. In the 21st century, we know far more about cities, countries, and continents we have never even been to. The reason I'm saying this is that in the first half of the 20th century, average people were rarely presented with different cultures of the world. But through the medium of film, Walt Disney was able to give America a glimpse into the wonderful landscapes, cultures, and people of South America. Throughout the film, we are shown in stages the origins of South American culture, a story set against a South American landscape, a commonality between the North and South American cultures, and South America in the present day. The American audience of 1943 had never experienced this comprehensive of a cultural deep dive, and it served both historical and humanitarian purposes. And all of this was contained in an obscure 42-minute film from Disney made over 80 years ago. So next time you look for a movie to watch, don't choose a film that you're guaranteed to like that you've seen a million times. Take chances. Watch a film you wouldn't have seen otherwise. At least for myself, I would have never seen and fallen in love with Saludos Amigos if I just watched any other Disney movie for the 1000th time. Who knows, maybe you'll find a new favorite. Thank you for watching this video essay. Please make sure to tell me in the comments about other works of art that I should talk about. Or just leave a comment about anything, I'm always up for having a discussion. If you like this style of video, please subscribe to the channel. If you'd like, you could hit the notification bell or leave a like. Anyways, that is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching.